no. Chef Jonathon Stranger founded One Table Hospitality. We've got 3 restaurants here in Oklahoma City, and then we do kind of design and consulting work around the country. Literally, the day we opened, we had to open because we were about to not have any money in our bank account.
Damn.
So it was like, so we're going to open today.
Which restaurant was it?
It was called Ludevine. Do you want me to be here? Like, I don't have to eat here. And they're like, that's fine. You're like, how does this work? There's real no measurement except, are you sober today? And are you trying to live the right way? You know, a big part of it is taking responsibility for past actions, which is tough. You know, it's, for me, it was something I was just avoid. You know what I mean? You know, if I did something wrong, whatever it was in my past, but lie, steal, whatever, I would either blame it on somebody else, blame it on them. They're not real. They're just them, right? And also giving up this idea that I control everything. You know, I mean, the reality is thinking that I could control life around me and all this stuff was, I can't.
All right, thanks everyone for coming back to Be Frank podcast. Today we have a guest. He's a chef. He is founder of the One Table, and then mental health advocate, father. He's Jonathon Stranger. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
So I kind of stumbled upon the introduction. Can you kind of introduce to the listener who you are, what you do? I like to ask a question like if you're like doing the webs, you know, if you're making like a brand new website, like a bio, what's your bio will say?
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good one. Yeah, no. Chef Jonathon Stranger founded One Table Hospitality. We've got 3 restaurants here in Oklahoma City, and then we do kind of design and consulting work around the country. It's culinary, something that I love and have always done. I look at it more as an installation now. Do that. Mental health, addiction, and alcoholism specifically is something that is a big part of my service life. Something that I remain really active in, not only for myself, but obviously to help others. I got 2 kids, so a father. You nailed on that. You crushed that part. And then on television every now and then for different, whether it's Food Network, Discovery, different things for food and the outdoors.
So One Table, like, can you talk to me a little bit more about it? Like, you have a restaurant. Is that like a hospitality company or? Yeah.
So One Table, all encompassing, is we operate 3 restaurants of our own here in Oklahoma City. We have Osteria, Bar Chiquetti, and then recently opened El Coyote.
Oh, cool.
And so we've got 3 different restaurants. And then we also do kind of design work with all sorts of different things, whether it's hotels that need a restaurant put in, or independent restaurant companies that are kind of wanting to do that next thing. Kind of without saying who clients are. If there's a celebrity who's like, hey, I really want to do a restaurant. Like, I think it'd be really fun to work together and create something, and we'll do something like that all the way. And even now we're working on doing it's fun, it's new, it's funny, actually working on a kind of a fast food concept with the group. So all those things are fun. My favorite part of that part of my life is that kind of design aspect. You know, it's not
like a branding.
Yeah, everything about it. Everything is something that a human being is going to experience, right? So it used to be, when I first started cooking, well, I actually cared about cooking is a better way of putting it. Like, I worked in restaurants in high school, but it was like, I need money for gas and a cheap 6-pack. Like, that was, there was not more motivation behind that.
Was that a fast food restaurant or like a fancy restaurant?
No, a sandwich place.
Oh, okay.
I was a busser at this place called Pearls. It's still around. It was like a Cajun kind of restaurant. Did that, worked at a sandwich place, and taught tennis, like, just whatever I could do to make $6, $7 an hour when I was a kid. That was minimum wage. But back in the day, restaurants we didn't have social media. We didn't have any of that, right? So everything was based off review guides, whether it was, and I was in New York when I started cooking professionally. So it was, the New York Times, different magazines. That's really what it was. And you had to prove yourself, right? It wasn't, you couldn't buy followers and all this stuff or hire companies to build up this huge following before you even opened. Yeah. You open the doors and you had to perform. Where now it's totally different, right? Yeah. So now the customer engagement begins. I tell you about a restaurant, we're sitting down having a conversation. You might look it up on your phone. That could be the very first thing you do. And I'm one of these weird people where it's like, if I see like this way overblown thing, I'm like, what are you hiding? Like, why did you put this much money into this? You know what I mean? Right. And then I'm on the flip side, I'm like, this is horrible presence. I bet they only care about the food. Like, one of my favorite restaurants here in Oklahoma City has like no presence.
Which one?
It's I say that and I just blanked the name. It's an Indian restaurant. It's over on Northwest Expressway in Rockwell. Mana is what it's called. Yeah, and it's the food is killer, but everything else about the restaurant is wrong.
Oh.
Like from the service to the space, everything else is wrong. But I love that. Like it's a true mom and pop.
Yeah,
you know, it's they're Punjabi, and so they do Punjabi cuisine, and they crush it. I mean, the food is phenomenal. Everything's on styrofoam. All the utensils are plastic. You know, it's all like great choice.
That's more authentic that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's all like we don't care about any of this stuff. We care about making you a really good plate of food.
Yeah,
and so I love that place for that. So that's changed, you know, a lot. So really thinking, okay, when I tell you El Coyote, right? You're like, oh, cool, I'm gonna check it on my phone. So that has to be engaging, all the way to the lead through. The way that I look at a restaurant or kind of any service that we get to be a part of is more of like an installation, you know? So you're trying to create a feel, a vibe, or, you know, an experience for somebody. But it used to be, well, if you just had really good food, that was the experience they're going for. But people are looking for more than that now. Which is great. It's more challenging, but it's a lot more fun to go, okay, what does it feel like in there? What does it smell like? What does it look like? What is everybody wearing? What is the music? You really have to design every aspect of it. And the food is really just one aspect of everything else, you know? In this market that we work in Oklahoma, it's different. You know, there's restaurants here that from a culinary perspective wouldn't make it in other cities that we work in, but they're really friendly. So people love going there. Oh, they're always so nice there. It's like, okay, cool. Whereas in other markets, like service can just be mean, but if the food's really good, they'll be lining out the door. So it's every place has its own kind of challenges.
So Oklahoma people has to be nice?
Oh, for sure. Because it's nice. Everyone here is nice. Yeah, that's one of the nice things about living in Oklahoma is the people. And so you have to engage with that.
So you started cooking at New York? Yeah,
New York City.
And then did you go to like a school or something? Or?
Yeah, my school career has been multiple schools throughout my whole life. But when it originally was Long Island University, New York University, and then the Institute of Culinary Education, when I decided to, like, this is what I want to do.
Cool.
And then, I was actually working in restaurants in New York prior to culinary school. And at the time, culinary schools were popping up all over the place. A lot of the people that I was working with went to these big culinary schools like CIA. And it was like, man, do I need to have this to like be able to move up? Is it a thing? You know, it turns out no, but I ended up going anyway. I use maybe 2%.
What you learned?
Yeah.
Do you have to go to school in order to become a chef?
I don't think so. Okay. I mean, I believe in, granted, I come from a different generation of chefs, but I am a big fan of the apprenticeship model and things. I do think people should be paid for apprenticeships, but I do believe you learn more working for a chef than you're going to in school, because the reality is you're going to go to a culinary school and you're going to learn to make hollandaise, the sauce, this way. And then you're going to go to a restaurant and that chef's going to go, I do it this way. Yeah. So.
But you have a restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at like a chef's like a resume or whatever. Do you even look at a chef's resume?
Yeah, I look at it.
So if they, but like you look at it like if they go to school or not, right? Did you ever hire people who never went to school?
For culinary school? Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember in Oklahoma, we don't have, so in New York, I mean, you have 3 of the largest and best culinary schools in the country. Yeah. Whereas here, we have, which are great schools, but we have technical schools, right? So CIA is a 2 or 4 year university based on culinary arts. Whereas here you have, a 6-month program, a 9-month program, 1-year program, stuff like that. So they're different. And a lot of the ones here don't actually get real restaurant experience. So it's different, like I just said. So if you're making holidays for one dish at home, easy. I need you to make 5 gallons and I need you to make it in 20 minutes. It's a very different thing. Like there's cooking and then there's restaurant cooking, and they're 2 different things. So you have to be able to scale. You have to be able to move quick. And that's really what I look for in people. I mean, nowadays, if someone's can be on time and shows a true willingness to learn and to work, I'll take that with little experience over someone who's got some long resume. But
what's the kind of question you ask to figure that out?
Honestly, there's not one question to figure that out. It's more of, what do you like to do outside of work? Do you have healthy activities outside of work? There's, we spoke about.
Do you cook at your house?
At my house, rarely. Rarely. My wife does most of the cooking at home.
Would you hire people who say like does cook in the house?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, if I had just one place and I cooked at one place, and let's say I worked 5 days and 2 days off, whatever, I would cook more at home. But running a company and doing the different consultant stuff we do, it takes more of my time.
So in your day right now, it's kind of more of like a management rather than being a chef?
No, it's both. I mean, it's both. So right now, as we're having this conversation, I'm spending more time in Osteria cooking in the kitchen right now, just because I decided to be there right now. And then, but during the day, it's running a company and meetings and Zooms and emails and all the crap that comes along with it. Yeah, it's funny. It's like I like technology. I don't like technology.
Yeah.
It's like you give me a cabin in the woods and I'm good.
Yeah. Like when did you like decide like, okay, I'm gonna be a chef?
Man, excuse me. I was probably 19 in New York City when I decided like I think this is something I want to go for.
Why was that? Like your family was a chef? Or?
No, I don't have any of that. There's no backstory. It's not like my mother would cook any of that stuff. My grandmother was an amazing cook, and I cooked a lot with her when I was a boy. Grandma's crushed.
Yeah.
Grandma's crushed. Old Italian grandma, she crushed it. But we used to make candy. She made everything, and I loved it. But I would say probably about 19, 20 years old when I was cooking in New York City, I was like, I want to give this a go.
Is that like somebody's like eat your food and then like smile or something? Is that like that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I got that a little bit. It was more the justification of doing a good job. From the people that I looked up to in the restaurant I was at. This is at the time it was one of the top kitchens in New York City and one of the top kitchens in the world. So to have people of that stature say, "Hey, you're starting to get it," you're like, "Okay, cool," And so I mean, it's hard work and. That helped a lot. And then cooking for friends, girlfriend, back in the day and seeing them enjoy it. I'm like, okay,
like I'm good at this.
Yeah. Like I'm good at this. I'm not great, but I'm good, and I think I can get better at it. And I like culinary arts as a medium, for expression. I love the seasonality of it. I love its roots in the natural and nature and in earth. So to be able to express food in the moment to people is one of my favorite things, and it allows you to show off. Every step of it is a creative process, right? But it's something that people get to enjoy and consume and come back and get to do again and again, and that's one of the things I love about it. But at this point in my life, and why we call the company One Table is I love bringing people around. I really spend a lot of time thinking about why do I love doing this? Because the reality is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. And it's a tough business to be in, if you want to open your first restaurant and go to, unless you have an insane bankroll already, which why you'd go to a restaurant, I have no idea. But go to a bank and ask for a loan for a restaurant.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it. I mean, it's.
How did you start? Like, did you go to bank to start a
No,
restaurant?
it was me, my dad,
Yeah.
My grandma, and my best friend. And we scrapped together enough money to open up a restaurant.
When it was New York or Oklahoma City?
It was here. It was here in Oklahoma
How much
City.
that was?
$120,000.
Damn.
Yeah, which
for that like a rent?
No,
food?
that's what it costs to build the restaurant.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I did it all wrong. It was not enough money.
Yeah.
We had to cut a lot of corners. Literally, the day we opened, we had to open because we were about to not have any money in our bank account.
Damn.
So it was like, so we're going to open today. And we're like, how do we tell people? I was like, I don't know. So we didn't have marketing. We didn't have PR. We didn't have any of that. We had a very simple website.
Which restaurant was it?
It was called Ludevine.
Okay. Ludevine?
Yeah.
Oh, is that yours?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Oh, okay.
So it has different ownership now, but that was the first one that I did. And it was by the seat of our pants. I mean, literally we were like, okay, we have to open. And so I put something on Facebook on my personal, and I was like, we're open. Like that's all I had. I was like, I don't know what to say. We're open tonight.
They're like, okay, I'll come.
Yeah, and it was a flood. I mean, people showed up. So and over a decade, it's all worked out. But I had no idea what I was doing.
So whenever you open the restaurant, you're saying like New York, it's like a different age, right? Like a generation, and then like when food critics or like a review people comes, right? And then you have to earn the right or whatever you said.
Yeah.
Like I was always curious. Do you know those like food critic when they come, or you have no idea?
That's changed a little bit. So back then, yes. We had
like you knew.
We knew who they were. We had their photos.
Got you.
Like, cause you couldn't like go to their profile, right? Back then, and we're talking 25 years ago. You couldn't like pull their profile offline.
Yeah.
You had to find a picture of them.
Yeah.
And you would like blow it up on a copy machine, laminate it, and like if you see this person, that's this person. It has to be excellent, right?
Yeah.
There's not so much of that anymore. Some magazines and stuff still do that. The reality is a lot of times now they reach out to the restaurant, and it's, hey, I'm going to come in and I'll give you an article or review and give me free dinner.
Really?
Oh yeah. With like influencers is now a thing,
Do you like that or do you hate that?
I think there's pros and cons to it.
Okay.
Food is one of those things that it's totally based on someone's impression, right? Like you're never going to it's impossible for someone to make a decision that makes 100% people happy, especially a creative decision.
Yeah.
Some of the best songs ever, there's probably millions of people that don't like them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's probably people that don't like the Beatles. There's probably people that don't like Notorious B.I.G. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So when you bring people in, they're always going to have their own slant on it, and you're trying to get the messaging of what you're trying to do or what you're trying to create out, but it gets into the hands of other people that may not know what got you to this point. They're just kind of giving their moment impression of what it is. And sometimes it's correct, and sometimes it's their own, and sometimes it works, or sometimes it can give people a misread of what they're coming to experience. Then they come and they're like, well, this isn't like that at all.
Yeah.
So it's different. And a lot of times what's strange is a lot of that stuff, I can only speak to it, and I'll speak to the openings in Oklahoma City recently. A lot of those people want to come in the very beginning. They want to come to a soft opening before you've even opened your doors. That's
reviewers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the worst time to come to a restaurant. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure podcast 1 and podcast 500 for you are going to be very different,
probably.
500 is going to be super polished. You're doing one's like, we're just going to give this thing a go and see what happens, right? So that's kind of what that pre-opening is. It's like, I don't know. Because once you open a restaurant or any business, most businesses anyway, the customer decides the direction of what you're going to go. We might have all these plans on.
True.
This is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And the customers come in and we're like, that's not going to work at all. And you have to try to anticipate the different directions and react as quickly as possible to those. So there's pros and cons to it. There's pros and cons to everything though.
Yeah, I got you. So like if you get like I heard that article before that like hotels getting like influencers say, hey, I'm going to come, I need a free room.
Oh, 100%.
And then like hotels, I guess like hotel like industry, like stop giving them free stuff.
Some have, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think like, what's your definition of like, do they have a good follower, good brand? Like, do you like choose between those people or like you accept everybody?
I'm kind of of the mindset you just accept everybody.
Yeah.
And it's all going to, at the end of the day, the impression they get in our restaurant or in a hotel, as you mentioned, is going to be what the goal is still word of mouth, right? I mean, if you look at a phenomenal hotel company like the Four Seasons, they don't need influencers.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell me? That the service is great and it's a luxury hotel? I know. They're great.
Yeah.
I worked for them for a little bit. Like, they're a phenomenal company. But, if you're new and trying to get an upstart, especially if your demographic is, let's say there's a lot of hotels specifically opening up for like younger people, right? That are more hip, that may not have the same amenities like an old school luxury hotel would have. It's more modern amenities and stuff younger people are looking for. That makes sense because their demographic is living in social media.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Oh, this person, this YouTuber, whatever it is I follow, loves this hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, if I go there, now it's in my mind, right? So that makes sense. But for all of them, especially for established brands, I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, it would be really weird if the Four Seasons all of a sudden had this big influencer campaign.
Yeah.
Like, no, we all know it's good.
Did you say you have a brother-in-law who is Japanese?
Yeah. So my brother-in-law, his name is Alessandro Tanaka. His mother is from Milan, and his father was from Kyoto.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's funny. So he looks like his mom. He looks Italian.
Gotcha.
And his sister looks Japanese.
Gotcha.
And then when you see them together, you're like, you're related? Like, I don't know how that worked out.
Have you been to Japan?
I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I want to go so bad, but it's on the list.
Yeah, I was going to ask because of that you're talking about the service, because I'm from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Like my my parents in Japan and all that kind of stuff. But in Japan, like for service and the restaurant stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Japan, like there's no tip culture.
Right.
Like we don't give out tip. But like if you go to Japanese McDonald's, you get super service.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're smiley, they're proper, formal. They ask you like even like a menu sign says smile, $0. You can ask for smile, and then they will actually smile. And it's just
awesome.
Phenomenal service. And then whenever I came to United States,
Mm-hmm.
fast food people, it sucks, right? Like they're like, here you go, ketchup. Like they even like throw you to the window kind of
Mm-hmm.
deal, right? And then also even like go to like fancy restaurants, sometimes they're rude, right?
Sure.
Like maybe Oklahoma, not so much, but some restaurants, right?
No, you're correct. Yeah.
But they get tips.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious, like, do you ever thought about that? Like,
100%.
I mean,
It's strange. So here's something that hit me personally recently. So in last December, I was in Ecuador for 3 weeks, and I kind of went all around the country to the different regions. And the service in Ecuador, I was not expecting this, was some of the best I've ever had.
Really?
And it's a culture thing, kind of like what you mentioned about Japan, like treating someone kindly, giving them a good service, and welcoming them is just part of the culture.
Yeah.
Where in the United States, it's kind of part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you try to build it into a company, you try to, influence it more, but it's not like it is in other places. But now you go to Europe, which I've worked in Europe, and some places in Europe, like when you talk about like rude, like, do you want me to be here? Like, I don't have to eat here. And they're like, that's fine. You're like, how does this work? It's packed and you eat food. And
It's
you're
a
like,
Michelin star, like a restaurant.
yeah. And then you eat the food and you're like, oh, I get it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of different places. And I think a lot of that's based culturally. I was recently down in Mexico on a project, and there was a woman, the neighborhood we were staying in had like cobblestone looking streets. It was new, but it wasn't like brick, right, street. And her job was to kind of maintain the gardens in this particular area of this place. And in between the different bricks, she's got her AirPods on and she's just vibing. She's got a little trough and she's getting all the little grass that's growing up, so that there was no grass in the road, so it looked perfect. And one of the businessmen I was with was like, how much do you think you have to pay someone to do that back home? And another guy said, it doesn't matter what you pay them. They won't do that. She cares about that area being beautiful. That's what matters. And I think that's something that it's that next thing. If even myself included, if a human being or someone's thinking about what do I get out of this solely, at the end of the day, the result of their work isn't going to be that great. But when the care for the work is, and the reason for doing the work is just to do the work well, then it's a whole lot better. One of my favorite jobs, my favorite jobs I ever had was, we more than welcome to talk about this. When I got out of treatment, that's when I moved back to Oklahoma, and I had no intention on coming back to Oklahoma. I left here when I was 17. I had zero intention of coming back, and then went to drug and alcohol treatment, came back, and I worked on an organic farm, small farm, nothing big, nothing crazy, and I loved it. I loved the work. I loved tending to the land. I loved taking care of the plants. I loved the process of it. And then you got to see the results directly from how well you took care of it is how much you receive, how much
kind of reward, yeah,
that was the reward. And going home, getting up I was living in Oklahoma City, driving out to El Reno every morning at 5:30.
Yeah.
Just me and my dog, like super simple, taking it easy. And I loved being dirty. I loved being outside. I loved getting sun on me, and it's hard work. It's manual. Farming's hard. It's manual labor. It's financially not very rewarding.
Yeah, actually, I've done farming.
You've done farming? Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Because I came to Felt, Oklahoma as an exchange student. I graduated 5 people. You know Felt, Oklahoma?
No.
It's like a panhandle of Oklahoma.
Okay, so it's
like
out there.
New Mexico, 30-minute drive.
Okay.
And then the Felt, Oklahoma, there's a vending machine in a school. That's about the...
It's top line.
Yeah, good stuff you get. But I was working at the feed yard and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, like waking up 6 a.m. Just go to like clean the chicken house and feed yard and tagging the cows and all that stuff. Yeah, so like I kind of understand like farming is hard.
It's hard. It's physical work. I was in great shape. I mean, it's physical work, but it's rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think if what someone's looking for is either what's next, or if a human being is too connected to certain things in social media that are showing, I have this, right? The whole like bling and drip and all the stuff that I have. If that's the goal, the process to that goal is not going to be healthy. For me, the process of which we do the work that we do is the joy. That's really the good stuff there. Those little things throughout the day, those little silver linings make it all worth it. Because at the end of the day, I found for myself, I'll get to this, okay, let's pretend it's a restaurant. Like we got to opening day, right? We're excited. Well, that's where the work begins. You know what I mean? There isn't an end to the work, right? End is, for me, I can only speak for myself, end is death. Like that's when it's all over, right? So it's the process of going through these things. And that's something that I try to teach my children. Like my daughter's a dancer. And she's actually, for her age, she's a very good dancer. But there was a time when she was not a good dancer, Anytime you start something, for me when I was rock climbing, there was a time when I was not a good rock climber.
Yeah.
But the process of going through it and getting better and seeing the results is more rewarding than, because for myself, when I get to that goal, whether it's, so climbing works on a grading system. So like one of my first goals was I want to be able to climb a 510.
Yeah.
When I got to climb a 510, was I done? No, I want to climb an 11. I want to climb a 12.
Yeah.
Like you keep wanting to go.
Yeah.
And so getting involved in the work and enjoying that part of it, you'll see the results. They'll come. Doing a lot of work with young men and recovery, it's like, look, your life's going to get better. It's not going to be tomorrow. Yeah. It may not be in 3 months.
How do you define the recovery process? Because like, rock climbing, for example, even like a fitness, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're doing bench press, like currently I'm trying to bench 2 plates, right? Like 45 plates, and then another 45. So it's 225. So like every week I'm trying to lift like 5 pounds heavier, right? Because then like if I just do it, maybe one more rep and then like, okay, I'm getting better. I'm getting reward, right? So when I think it's fascinating to me whenever you're doing like a recovery, those kind of stuff, is that people like have like a smaller goal to like, hey, if I don't smoke, if I don't take drugs one day, once a week or whatever, like how, does that make sense? My questions? Like,
yeah, that makes like sense. How do you measure kind of the success throughout recovery? So the most basic form is, are you sober right now? That's the biggest thing. I mean, it depends. In my opinion, if you really do have the disease of addiction or alcoholism, there's no, you can't like, I'm only going to go out on Fridays. You know what I mean? Like I tried that once and all of a sudden Fridays became every single day, right? So like it doesn't work for me. And also you got to realize a lot of people in recovery are starting from a very, very dark place. Yeah. Whether it's homelessness, getting out of prison.
What was that for you?
For me, I went to jail a couple times. Was never homeless, but I had this trajectory as a chef that I derailed. The doors were open. I was executing. I was doing well. And at one point in time in my using, it stopped being a party and it started to be. I was self-medicating. I was depressed. I was anxious. I always felt like I needed to keep up. So speed, cocaine, pills, Adderall, all that stuff. And it came to a point where I didn't have any confidence in myself unless I was on something. And that's when the disease really took over. So I had a great career with Four Seasons for a little bit and was on my way back to New York City. And I blew through, I think it was somewhere a little over $30,000 in about 2 weeks. I came back here to Oklahoma on my way to New York City and didn't leave. Basically got hooked up with the old people that I ran with when I was in high school, started doing drugs again. A lot of them obviously partying, ran out of the money that I had to get to New York and was sleeping on my mom's couch. My mom's been in recovery as well for a long time. So she saw it and they were like, so you have an option. You can go to treatment or the streets. Best of luck to you, And at that point in my life, I thought I was going to be at this point in my life. I was not even anywhere close to that. The bottom is I could be bankrupt, living on mom's couch, strung out. And so I took treatment. And I was like, well, nothing bad can come from treatment. And there's a bed and there's a roof, right? And there's food. So that's the direction that I went. But a lot of guys I've worked with have been in a much worse situation. Some of them better situations, not necessarily good situations, but just better than, some people might be coming off a suicide attempt. So you're generally in a pretty low place. So it starts with, one, just admitting that you have an issue with these things and that you're willing to seek help for it. For me, a lot of my path has been a spiritual path, but it's there's real no measurement except, are you sober today, and are you trying to live the right way? A big part of it is taking responsibility for past actions, which is tough. It's, for me, it was something I was just avoid. You know what I mean? If I did something wrong, whatever it was in my past, but lie, steal, whatever, I would either blame it on somebody else, blame it on them. They're not real. They're just them, right? If they would just, I'm like, who the hell's they, right? If they would get their shit together, my life would be better, right?
Yeah.
And also giving up this idea that I control everything. The reality is, when, for myself, thinking that I could control life around me and all this stuff was, I can't. I can wake up, do a meditation, feel great, walk out of the house, get on the highway to drive down to work. I get cut off. All that joy, gratitude's gone. I'm cursing at someone I don't even know.
Yeah.
Who could be on the way to an emergency, and who knows, whatever, right? So I can't even control my own thoughts sometimes. So even though I think I can, I can't. So kind of letting go of that, and be willing to listen to other people and take guidance. And what it comes down to, I just said, do the work. There's a lot of work that comes in recovery. And when you do that work, you will see the results. But you have to do
work, like, for example, like, going through like a mental health and like a depression kind of stuff, right? Like, I think you said it too, but you have to admit it. But also like meditations and journaling or going to therapy and all that kind of stuff is like a work. But like, so going through addiction to be sober, like what kind of work like you have to do?
Yeah. So, for me, the work that I did, so I work a lot with like the 12-step program. That's what I did. So it was to find a sponsor and and work those 12 steps with them, which are hard. You have to kind of go through and do real thought work on, what are my character defects? And you have some guidance on what defects are if you don't know them by definition. I have a healthy list of defects, as I like to call it, whether it's fear, ego, envy, jealousy, anger, dishonesty. Like, I'm human, I have those defects. And then kind of look at the actions that I took in the past in my life, and how many of those defects those things happen because of my defects.
Do you talk through that, or do you just write it down? Or?
No, you write it down and you talk through it. You generally with your sponsor, and you pick one person that you trust.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things people did that they probably don't want public at all. And they have to have someone, at least one person, that can tell that too. Because for a lot of us, we don't tell people any of those things.
Yeah, for sure.
So to get them off it's the idea of just letting go of it, you know, and then going back and looking, who or what have I wronged in this way of living?
Right.
And taking, I don't like to use the phrase manning up, but I'm not good with words, but, take responsibility for them and, make those amends where necessary, which is hard, to go back to someone, an ex-girlfriend in my case, or other people, or my wife at the time, and go to them and say, hey, here's what I did wrong, and I take full responsibility for it. And there's no buts. There's no, but you did this. If you wouldn't have done this, but I'm apologizing for mine. No, it's like, here's what I did wrong. How can I,
like no excuse.
No excuse. And can I do anything to make up for it?
Yeah.
And then you kind of work that. And at the end of it, it's, working with other people and helping them along the way. It's one of those, what I like about it, it's, you don't keep anything if you don't give it away.
Yeah.
And that's a big part for me in my sobriety, is I have to work with other young people and be of service back to the community that basically saved my life. Otherwise, that community doesn't continue.
You say you keep, what did you say? If you don't keep,
you can't keep anything if you don't give it away. It's like, think of it this way: like, if you don't love yourself, how are you gonna love other people?
Right.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a bad place, which I've been, it's really hard to see the good in other people if you can't even see the good in yourself. So, I always feel better about who I am in my day and in the moment when I'm doing something for somebody else.
Gotcha.
When I'm completely self-serving, especially being an alcoholic and addict, one, it's generally not a healthy place to be. There's an old saying that a friend of mine's, I think my friend's grandpa said, is, the mind's a dangerous neighborhood, never go in there alone. Like, when I'm solely self-serving, things go off the rails a little bit. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of employees, I've got children, I've got a wife, a home to take care of. If I'm not on point with who I am and good in my skin, there's no way I can be of service to any of these people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so but when I make a point to get outside myself and be of service to other people, then things stay on the right track for now. We'll see. Hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that why you started a nonprofit? Like
no, so I didn't start it. It's called A Chance to Change. I was asked to be a part of it. I think during COVID, actually, which was weird because meeting everyone on Zoom and not in person and all that. But no, I love it. When I'm asked to be of service to especially that community, I'm gonna say yes. Yeah. You know, that's.
What do they do?
So Chance to Change's biggest mission is to help people with addiction, alcoholism, and mental health. So it is a nonprofit. So there are services that are free, there are services that are paid for. Everything from working with folks with PTSD to alcohol addiction, working with children of parents who have alcoholism, parents, just kind of working to get people on the right track. And it's a great organization. So I'm happy to be a part of it. It's just, I've learned one thing I've always kind of done in life is I try to always say yes to everything at least once. Yeah. You know what I mean? At least once, depending on what it is. But, well, some things I definitely shouldn't have said yes to. But I found out, I love that. It's, I like life to be spontaneous, being relatively creative. I don't like being in a tunnel. I don't like doing the same thing all the time. Mm-hmm. I just get bored and I get crazy, and idle hands are the devil's tools. So it's like, we need to switch it up. So we decided randomly, we're going to live in Italy for a couple of weeks this summer. We're on a whim the other night, we decided to go to Iceland. So we're going to fly out to Iceland here in a few months.
Oh, you went to Iceland?
Well, I'm about to go.
Oh, nice.
I haven't been yet. We're about to go. It's been kind of a bucket list thing. Yeah. So we're like, hey, here's this opportunity. Like, screw it. Let's do it. Yeah. Like, let's go. So I like, might sound strange. I like chaos a little bit. I think there's the way that I work, especially in restaurants, in kitchen, it's fast paced, it's busy, things are going. I feel like the world around me is now moving at the speed at which my thought is moving. So in the speed that I like to move. So I feel comfortable in that a little bit. And there's an energy behind it. Yeah. Like there's energy with chaos. And we're the human race. There's always going to be chaos. There's never this idea of, I just want everything to be easy. Like it's not supposed to be. Yeah. Like the human experience isn't supposed to be easy.
So whenever you find out like who you are and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Do you ask yourself, like, are you a chef?
It's a good question. So the answer to that is my occupation, what I do for a living is cook, which people define that occupation as a chef. But why we called it One Table was it's really the idea about bringing people together. And that's what I like to do the most.
So that's who you define yourself as?
Yeah, someone who works in a role to bring people together.
That's
and
beautiful.
I do it through culinary. That's one of the ways that I do it is by creating meals in a place, in a space where people can come and be together.
That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It took me years to figure out that's why I actually like doing it. But I was thinking about it. And one thing I love, my grandma, who I mentioned, she cooked like a beast. And she would always, when she would cook, the whole family would get together. And all the issues that families have, all the disagreements, all the petty, whatever it might be, the drama, would kind of go away in that moment, in that evening when we'd have dinner and my grandma would cook it. And I loved that. And so that's one thing I like to try to provide for others is the ability to just come together, step out of your day, step out of the life for a minute and just let someone else take care of you and enjoy the moment. And that's really our goal is to create great meals and all that stuff, but it's really just to create a positive moment in someone's day. I mean, and I feel like that's a goal that is noble, but at the same time is attainable. If you're like every person we cook to is going to have the best meal of their lives. Well, if they're gluten-free and they come to eat pasta at Austria, that's a problem. We have a gluten-free pasta, but it's like, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I want a well-done steak. Okay. So you cook it and you do the best you can, but you're not going to be the best for everybody, and that's okay. As long as their overall experience has been positive and they had a good time, then we've been successful.
I was curious, so like you have a nonprofit substance abuse, and also like you were addict before, and then like you have a restaurant, right? Yeah. Then you serve alcohol, right?
100%.
So like, how's that? Is that contradict sometimes, or?
It doesn't now. Okay. The desire to use drugs or drink is gone at this point in time. Early on in sobriety, it's a challenge. It's like, okay, get in the restaurant, do what I need to do, and get out. I mean, that was part of it. Now it's not really a thing anymore. But at 100%, the hospitality industry does have I mean, for a long time, drug use, and still do it in some places, still is, drug use and alcohol is encouraged. You know, it was this, you know, come out and, you know, work hard, work hard, party hard, right? That work hard, party hard. And that can only go on for me, it can only go on for so long, you know, and when it's encouraged, it creates this kind of workspace where it's like, is this what we're doing? Like, we're all gonna sleep till 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and rolling hungover and tell ourselves how great we are. You know, like, that's what I did that, you know? So it's like, and I created that atmosphere at one point in time. So it's like, is that what we're doing? Like, there's no joy in that. It's just kind of getting through it, getting through the day to get to the bar, getting through the day to get to that bag, getting through the day to smoke that joint, whatever it might be. And then it bleeds into like, we'll just do it here at the restaurant because we own everything, you know, like it's not good. So it's a challenge, and it's an industry where a lot of that's around, but I like to at least try to be of assistance to people that are kind of struggling with that within our industry. We've hired a lot of people. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Unfortunately, it works out less than I would like it to. But, you know, people that are struggling, we'll bring them into where if their skill set is restaurants and they've fallen off the wagon. Or, you know, I consider our restaurants a safe space for somebody. Who's dealing with that to work.
I used to bartend, and then like it's like a bartend industry night or whatever, right? Like they like drink a lot, right? It's like I was just curious, like, is that like a good thing or bad thing, or like maybe that's the time of their life, you know? I don't know.
I think the alcohol industry has done an amazing job of marketing tradition. And so this feeling of, oh, it's relaxing, we're not, you know, it's carefree to go and get drunk and do all this stuff, and they've done an amazing job marketing that. And so when you have those like, all right, we're just going to drink all day and it's going to be awesome. When I was 18, 19, 20, sure, I could drink all day and the next day kind of get through it. Towards the end, no. You know, it was rough. And I mean, now at this point in my life, I always talk about mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical health. Like, where am I at? Like, I'm trying to gauge where I'm at, you know, in the mornings when I wake up. Like, do I need to work out hard today? You know, same days are light days. Some days, like, I just want to murder myself, right? Like, I just want to, like, I want to hurt the next day. And it's the same thing with, you know, mental shape, spiritual shape, and physical and mental shape, all that emotional. Alcohol for me does not make any of those better. Drugs do not make any of that stuff better for me. So I abstain from doing them. So that's kind of my thing. It's like, if you're having a hard day or you're in a bad place, is drugs or alcohol the best thing? In my experience, no. Some people, maybe it works. I don't know. You know, there are people that are normal. People can go out and have a glass of wine and go home. I don't get that. You know, it's like decaffeinated coffee. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's the point of that? Like, I've never understood decaffeinated coffee.
Got you. Makes sense. So we were talking about that a little bit before we started the podcast. You know, like, a mental health is like, it's a mental health month right now. I don't know why this is May is mental health. Maybe May.
2 M's.
Health. Yeah, maybe 2 something M's. Like that. I
have no idea.
But we're talking about, like, you know, like, you used to be talking about mental health and how people raised, you know, like, to be like follow into it, like yourself, don't cry, all that kind of stuff. And then, like, right now, like, a lot of people are talking about it. And then also, I think it's a good thing, but also, like, I'm just curious, this is like, social media has a lot to do with mental health. However, is that social media, because of social media, that it's changed the culture of the talking about mental health. Is like a normal thing. It's something is, I would say, like, more sexier things to talk about, because of the culture, I think, creating on the internet, I guess. Like, what's your thoughts on, like, how this society about the mental health right now?
Generally, I think it's good. I think it's good because it allows it. It's a good friend of mine who's a chef, a phenomenal chef in Chicago, has this hashtag that I like. It's called, which used to be $, but hashtag, it says, "It's okay to not be okay," which is 100% true. And I love that. It's okay to be human is basically what we're saying. I love that. I think social media has a lot of pros and cons. As a businessman, social media is great, right? You can build a brand, you can build whatever you want through that way. You can build customer base, followings, all that stuff. That's good. It highly makes it a lot easier for small businesses specifically to get word out about what they're doing. They don't have to go buy a billboard or a magazine ad for thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's great. I think it's great that people can have a voice. I think that it's also a dangerous place for mental health, meaning if you're in a place where you're not in a good place, when all you see is, look how awesome my life is, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't post what's really going on, right? A lot of people just want to paint this pretty picture. And if you're looking at these pretty pictures all day and your life isn't that way, you might think something's wrong with you. And depending on where you're at, that could be a bad thing.
But don't you think that's kind of like, I think I feel guilty of that, but like I don't post like a negative things on the social media, right? But also like, people who try to like post like a drama or negative things, people unfollow, right? Yeah. So like it's like a people is like creating that culture, say, hey, just post positive thing, right?
And I'm not talking about the people that post. It's the people reading the post. You know what I mean? You have to be, I don't engage with social media that much. Like I just happen to see your message. So I don't engage with it that much because I know that it's not a safe place for me. I can see envy is what I mentioned is one of my personal defects. If I see someone doing really, really well, most of the times I'm super excited for that person, but sometimes it's not that I'm against them. It's more what's going on with me at the time where I'm comparing, so, and that can be a dangerous spot. Judgment can be a, dangerous spot. I think that's more of how people see it, where you have to be careful, where my daughter's about to get her first cell phone here in a little bit. And it's like, okay, crap, here comes this flood of some good, but a bunch of nonsense that her young mind is going to have.
How old is your daughter?
She's 9.
9?
Yeah. Ooh. If it was my choice, it would be like, she would get a flip phone and she could call us if there's a problem. But
probably she has iPad and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. She can iWatch all that crap. But it's, here comes this flood that a young developing brain is going to have to deal with. Yeah. And
how do you do that? What do you?
I don't know, dude. If someone knows the answer, like how do you make social media healthy for children? Yeah. You would be the most important, wealthiest person in the world if you could figure that out. But it's going to be an interesting road to navigate. Obviously, we're going to talk to other parents. Like, what have you seen that's successful? What's not successful? There's bullying on social media. What if you think something's about you, but it's not? You know what I mean? Back in the day, you just went and asked. Now they just, I don't know. You kind of hold back and just try to figure out what's going on in real life or social media life, what people are saying. So it's going to be an interesting thing to navigate. Yeah. For me, I tell young people or people in recovery, like, hey, take a break for a little bit. Like, get yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, like, strong. Yeah. So that you can take that flood of information and just see it for what it is, right? With the majority of it, a lot of it just being kind of nonsense. Like, not bad, not negative. I don't mean that at all. It's just like, hey, we got a new puppy and it's going on a walk. Well, that's fun. I'm not going to do anything with that information. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, I don't know near enough about it to say politically what's right, what's wrong, and people put opinions up and all that. But it's for looking at a young person about to enter that world, like, how do you teach them to understand, like, these aren't facts. Like, this is just people talking. Yeah. And it's a lot of people talking at once. When I was a kid, I'd have conversations with a few classmates during the day, my parents. And if someone called, I'd grab the phone and hopefully the cord was long enough to get to the closet so I could talk in private. Yeah. That was it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just changed, things dramatically. I heard recently, there was a story that Dave Chappelle told about being out to dinner with Steve Jobs, and he had the first iPhone with him, and how I wish he would have taken it and just destroyed it. Well, maybe not. There's a lot of benefits to it, but there's just things you have to watch out for. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and try to keep it light. Yeah. Don't be so serious about reading it.
Yeah, I think enjoy life and don't take it too serious. What's right, what's wrong, just whatever, right?
Yeah, like I do this thing usually about once a week where I just take a tech break for a day. Like, don't really do anything on my phone. If it's anything tech-based, maybe music, no television, just kind of nothing, and just be.
I like that, tech break.
Yeah, it's a great day. It's the best day. You read a book, like a real book with paper, and just kind of get lost in your own imagination. And for me, it's awesome. Yeah. I really enjoy it.
I do have, once a month, I try to take a my Yosuke day, what's it called? Like just my name. You know?
Yeah, sure.
Like I just don't have a human contact. Also, like I don't answer phone calls. I don't text anybody. I don't like look at anything. I might watch TV, but like this is the day of like I kick everybody out from my life.
Yeah.
And then I just do that.
It's healthy.
It
gives you the ability to check in with yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like, how am I doing? Like, where am I at? I mean, that's a good part about journaling. But, you know, I have a thing. I don't really engage with the world unless I absolutely have to till about 10 a.m. That's morning time. You know, kids go off to school, and then my wife goes off to work, and I've got this period of about like an hour and a half where it's just maybe take the dogs on a walk, like get some sunshine when it's sunny outside, get outside and get that vitamin D, or just read a book, or just take some moment to like prepare myself for the day. Because I find that if I wake up, go to my phone and just start going, like I never have time to like get my head together. And I have, generally speaking, when I take the time in the morning to just be for a little bit versus not, the days where I take some time just to be are way better.
More productive.
Yeah, they're more productive. I'm
more
in
peace.
a better, I'm in a better mood. If something goes wrong, it's not a big deal. You know, we try to always talk about, you know, there's no such thing as problems, it's just challenges, and try to get rid of the word problem. Like, don't use that word. Be like, hey, we have a challenge. It's like, okay, cool, we got something we got to figure out. This is fun. And in looking at things that way, it's like, okay, I can accept a challenge, but the negative connotation that comes with problem is a deal. Like, we always try to make sure, and it's not perfect, but especially working with our staff, like never tell a guest no problem or no worries. People are like, hey, can I get, oh yeah, no worries. Like, it sounds cool, it sounds separate, whatever, but you're also saying that it could have been. Like, excuse me, do you mind if I get an extra Dr. Pepper? I'm just making something up, right? Can I get another Dr. Pepper? Oh yeah, no problem. Well, the way language works, like, would it have been a problem? Like, could it be a problem? No.
What would you say instead?
Say, hey, can I get another? Of course, I'd be happy to get it for you.
Oh.
Just the communication, just super simple stuff.
Nice.
You know?
Never thought of that before.
Yeah, trying to eliminate those negative words when it's not a negative situation.
I think you said you're going to be a little bit late. I said, no worries.
Yeah, 100%.
My bad.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's common.
I think I'll take that to my life and I'll apply it. What is, you said like read a book, right? Like what is like you recommend for people who are going through substance abuse or mental health? Like, is there a book like you totally recommend?
Oh man, there's so many. I think it depends on what it is that you're trying to fix, right? Like, a lot of people that I've worked with in addiction, alcoholism, whether it's depression is one of them.
I guess like maybe like what book helps you the most in your life?
Man, the book. So there's the big book, which is the AA book, which was incredibly helpful for me. There's a book, a monk, but his name is Thich Nhat Hanh, and he wrote a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ. And I find that when I'm off kilter, most of the time, like I kind of mentioned that I like look at each kind of realm, you know, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. And if spiritual's off, it'll screw up like the rest of it. And that's just a book for me that was, I got to give a little backstory. Grew up Catholic, which was scary. And then I just didn't vibe with me at all. Like, it's like, if you're going, you pretty much don't have a chance you're going to hell. And you're like, God, 9. Like, this is really scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that just didn't work out for me. And then in treatment, they're like, you need to find what we call like a higher power or something, anything bigger than yourself. It can be Jesus, it can be Buddha, it can be Hindu, it can be an orange, just something that's more important in your life than you. And I read this book called Living Buddha, Living Christ by Thich Nhat Hanh. And knowing a little bit about Jesus growing up Catholic, it was a very grounding book into spirituality. It's not a religious book. It was a spirituality book about dealing with fear, here's how these two figures dealt with these things. Here's how these two figures are very similar. Here's how they look at the world. That was really, really helpful for me. There's another book that I love by, why am I blanking right now? It's by the author is Paulo Coelho. I want to say The Pilgrim, but I don't know if that's actually the name of it. But anyway, it's a book I read about once or twice a year that I really, really enjoy. It's about a young man kind of growing up and traveling and learning who he is as a man. There's a book by John Eldredge called The Wild Man, which is really, really good. It's it's basically for men, but it talks about there are certain male attributes that are sometimes seen as negative that are really positive. You know, like men can be aggressive. There's a negative side to aggression, especially with 100%. But there's also a positive side to aggression and to wanting to, you know, make things happen and force things through. When that energy is used in the right way. And that book talks about that a lot, which I really, really like. God, there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many books. I mean, I think knowledge is power. And then like, I don't know, something about like a reading actual paper book, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, I think it's just healing. And then also, I don't know, I learned so much. And then like, it's just kind of like reading a book, like something, it's like, oh, I knew this concept, but like, it's just organized. And you consume and organize information. So it's like a clear, so you can take it to life and, apply for it. So I do love reading books. So and then sometimes I do asking people that what book, and then I like to read that stuff and then figure it out, people's like thought process.
There's another one that I love by Brene Brown, who has become very popular for very good reason. Her book's called Daring Greatly. And that book I loved because it also kind of gave you work to do, like on certain things. It deals a lot with shame, fear. That's a really great one. It's one that I ask a lot of young guys that I'm working with to read, especially if they're dealing with those things. It's really good. It kind of gets to the core of things.
Maybe I'll read some of those books.
They're good.
Yeah,
there's so many, and now they're all coming to mind. Grit's a great book. I've read a couple for business, you know, as well, but there's nothing in that realm that really like kind of jumps out at me.
Yeah. I mean, like I do ask 2 questions like end of the segment all the time, but 2018, that is going to be 5 years ago. What were you doing in 2018?
In 2018, it's
That's
so funny because there's like, pre-COVID. I always forget that like year doesn't feel like it exists. 2018, we opened Osteria, an Italian restaurant. So that was the beginning of One Table. September of 2018. So a lot of that year was leading up to that. I'm trying to think through that year and what was going on. It was we had 2 young children. 2018 was honestly like almost like a restart year in a way.
So my question would be, what advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
It's all going to be okay. That's, I think that everything's temporary. I would say like you're doing the right thing. Like just keep going.
Nice.
Don't take it so seriously and enjoy each moment. That's one thing in life I try to do better is enjoy. I'm guilty of working on this kind of fast food project, right? It's a big deal. It's really fun. But instead of enjoying the moment, like we're doing this, it was like, okay, it's time to get to work. Like that was the first, like, it's time to get to work. Instead of being like, wow, like you've gotten to a point where this group is willing to back heavily this role and they want you to help do it and help guide it. It's like, there was a position where nobody would even call me because I was so strung out, right? I didn't have friends, I didn't have anything. And then years later, here come these, big backers going, who are great friends and good people going, hey, we have faith in you. We want you to do this. Like that's a gigantic jump. So I think to tell myself back then was like, just stay the course.
Nice.
And if you go off, admit it and find help.
That's a good advice. What about, how do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh God, in 5 years, let's see. A 14-year-old daughter, 11-year-old son. In 5 years, I would want to see myself, I always kind of have this meditation where I see myself as a child in the older me. I hope that in 5 years, I'm the man that I want to be. I'm coming closer to the man that I want to become. I hope that the little things hold no weight as much. I'm slowly but surely getting better at that in 5 years. Hope to still be sober, obviously, in 5 years. And from a business side, there's not really a money goal. I know some people have those, and I get it. But I've learned in my life, for me, money has come and it's gone, And at the end of the
just
day,
like feelings, I guess.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I've been happy when I was working on a farm making $7 an hour, and I've been making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and been completely unhappy. So, I try not to give that any weight in my life because it's a thing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, how much money I have has nothing to do with my children love me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in 5 years, I hope to be able to spend more time with my children at that point. And be the man who I want to become more, which is more spiritually in tune, physically fit, and be more available to others, to be of service to them, and have more time for that.
I love that. That's cool. I think find it super interesting. Like there's two type of chef, right? Like maybe I'm stereotyping. There's a cool chef, and there's like a kind of like a cutesy chef, I guess, like a happy, like kind of like a more like a bigger like a stuff.
Sure, yeah, you got it's a physical, yeah.
Yeah, and then like a happier, like it's more like a kind of like a mom, but like kind of like a vibe of chef, and also like artsy and super cool chef.
Sure.
I mean, like you're a cool chef, but you know what I mean.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've met them. I've met them all. The chefs that are incredibly just hard and arrogant and mean, to the chefs that are super kind and cool and fun, to the ones that are just humble and grateful to be able to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So people who listen to this episode of this podcast, if they were maybe cooking somewhere and then they're like inspired to open a restaurant or like maybe, I don't know, try to become an executive chef somewhere, like, what would you say to them? Like, what's the advice you can give them to, pursue their dream?
Well, first and foremost, if you are out there and you're cooking and you want to open your own restaurant, you better learn the business first. I made that mistake. I remember our first payroll. I was like, who pays us? And everyone's like, I think you do. And I was like, okay, how do you do that? So learn how a business works.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I had to learn that the hard way, which is I was a really great cook.
Yeah.
But I was not a chef or a business owner when I opened my first restaurant. So learn how the business works for sure. But the biggest thing is show up, work hard, take notes, and just listen. And I try to do that now, and I've owned restaurants for over a decade. Like when I met someone who more successful than me by whatever measurement economically people want to use, I just listen to them. I stopped talking years ago. Like I'm not gaining anything if I just talk the whole time. Is listen and find somebody better than you or someone who's done it and reach out to them and ask for advice. I think that's the one thing that a lot of people make a mistake is they think, I'm amazing at this, it's going to be great. And there's going to be something you don't know. So find out what that is and learn it.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, I think it's a lot of creatives, is the business side of how things work.
Yeah.
Because cooking your ass off, 120 hours a week and walking home with $35,000 a year sucks. Trust me. From experience. That sucks. And to see how people around you that work for you, it's with you, but work technically speaking for you, making more money than you. It's hard when you're putting everything, your family's money on the line, everything to try to make it go. It's a challenge. So really learn the business side of it. Take the time to do it. And a lot of chefs don't learn that. A lot of them are in the kitchen. They're learning how to cook. Maybe they've moved up to sous chef and they think they're ready to make that jump. Be careful. Learn the business first. It's super vital if you want to be a restaurateur. Now, if you just want to open up a kind of what I did, if you want to open up just a hip place and serve badass food and make a swing of it, there's a part of me that respects that. Like, fuck it. Let's throw caution to the wind and see what happens. That's in me, like that chaos thing I talked about. That's in me and I like it. But it's harder. It is hard. It's when you're young and you don't have a lot, you don't have kids to deal with, all that stuff. Like, I don't say deal with, but the support and all that, it's okay. But you're going to make some mistakes and it's going to be hard. Just find a mentor and ask them, how do I make sure this place is successful? Because I'm about to put my dad and my grandma's money on the line and I need to know how to do it,
I'm pretty sure you pay back all the money.
Oh yeah, everyone's good. Everyone's good now.
Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that lately in life, I would say the biggest thing I try to tell people is, at least for today, like grant yourself grace. Like don't take yourself so seriously because nobody else is.
Yeah, no one cares.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I have a dear friend who's a phenomenal chef that had somewhat of a public fall down, which is fine. And he's so nervous to get back in the kitchen because of what people are going to say. And I looked at him the other night and was like, nobody cares. Is the food good? Is the service good? Nobody cares. So just don't take yourself so seriously and give yourself some grace.
Yeah. That's important. That's the hardest thing, but easiest thing at the same time, I feel like.
I know. It's the simple things that are hard.
Yeah. Well, I very much thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you. Like, I never met you before, but like I pretty much enjoy the conversation, and yeah, you have a great voice too,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. My wife's a speech language pathologist.
Oh, cool.
And she's like, you mumble, you do this, da 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 da. And I'm
Does she teaches like how to pronounce like English and stuff?
Yeah. So she actually worked in Spain for a few years.
Damn.
Helping businessmen and doing that.
Actually, can you ask your wife to come to the podcast?
Yeah, totally.
Because
she works with special needs kids, and speech path is what the role is.
I would love to know why, like, how can I get rid of my accent, and then how. Oh,
I don't know about that.
Oh, like
I like it.
I don't know. Like I just want to ask like a bunch of questions because I think it's fascinating to me to like ask. I was just talking to them about like reach out to somebody who can like talk about like a speech expert,
Yeah, no, she is.
Be perfect.
Speech is a thing, man.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for coming on to this show, watching, and then if you're watching on YouTube, please comment and subscribe and all that stuff. If you're listening to a podcast platform, give me a 5-star. I think it will help the podcast. I'm not sure, but I think I appreciate it. And then thank you guys coming in, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Peace.